Well, scepticism about the need for vaccines, along with mistrust of the authorities, is playing a significant role in the current wave of protest. David Robert Grimes is the author of The Irrational Ape: Why We Fall for Disinformation, Conspiracy Theory and Propaganda. I asked him whether vaccine hesitancy had also contributed to this latest COVID wave.
Played a significant part. Now, I think what's very important to realize is that there has always been an anti-vaccine movement. There is pamphlets from 1772 that are anti-vaccine. Vaccine hesitancy is a spectrum. So we often say anti-vaccine and pro-vaccine, but it usually is people being nudged one way or the other along a big spectrum. The problem with the current situation in Europe is that there is a hardcore vaccine hesitant, resistant minority. They constitute between 5 and 10% of most countries' populations. It is very, very difficult to get them to change their position. And they are, in many countries, such as Ireland, my home country, they are actually driving infections to the rest of the population. So taking some measures to correct that is very much overdue.
As you say, nothing new about this. We have been here before, of course, recently with MMR vaccines. How does this anti-science conspiracy take hold with such huge and devastating effect?
Conspiracy theories are at their zenith when things are confusing and scary, because no matter how elaborate they seem, they're very simple. They're a good or bad narrative. Good guys, bad guys. COVID has upended the entire world. It's a very scary time, which is very, very fertile ground for conspiracy theories to breed. And we have seen several iterations of this throughout the whole pandemic. The anti-vaccine core have obviously capitalized on this, and they've caught other people in their wake. As this is an unprecedented situation that we're in a once-in-a-generation pandemic. It has a significant effect. What is insane is that social media, in a big way, has allowed this to propagate far beyond the confines it usually would ever find an audience in. And that's very, very troubling and really hard to counter.
Well, let's pick up on that, because presumably social media makes these public health messages 1,000 times worse than if we were managing a public health crisis, say, 50 years ago.
Yes, and I mean, I think you're being generous with 1,000 times. We could go a few more multiples above. So we know that social media is basically catered to our excesses. It sells us what we want to see. We as human beings have a negativity bias. We react to things that are very scary or frightening, and we give them disproportionate weight. That makes it very easy for anti-vaccine activists to put out scary things on social media and catch other people with it. They make other people reticent to get vaccinated, to make them afraid. And because we're very bad at fact-checking, and we've seen this throughout the entire pandemic, social media has really been our Achilles heel. And it's one of the reasons that we have this resistant core around Europe and beyond, that it's difficult to reach, because they're only reading posts by people that have similar worldviews with the same amount of disinformation, and they're not capable or willing to check the veracity of those sources. So it is a very deep problem that's very hard to shift, and it's understandable that countries like Austria are bringing in vaccine mandates. By the way, vaccine mandates are historically a thing. They existed in the UK for a long time, in the USA. They were challenged in the US Supreme Court in 1905, and the US Supreme Court ruled they were not a violation of freedom. So there is historical precedent for mandating people to get vaccination. It's just a shame that we have to go to such an extreme measure when, vaccination would break the back of this pandemic in a huge way.